Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, there are two types of karts. There are those with four wheels, called karts, those with two wheels, called bikes or motorcycles. Today I will go over these bikes and karts, their effects on stats. These stats include speed, acceleration, weight, handling, and traction. Before I go over the effects of these stats, I should describe the statistics themselves. First stat is speed. The higher the speed stat is, the higher your maximum speed is. While this stat is very nice, it is quite deceptive. While it sounds nice to have a high maximum speed, it's hard to use this ability. In Mario Kart, you will commonly be bombarded by obstacles or items that will stop you briefly. As such, this stat is very hard to take advantage of in all situations. It does not mean that the stat is useless, though. The higher the stat is, the faster you will go when using some of the catch-up items, like the bullet bill, star, or mushroom. This can be very useful if you are in a low place, like 9, 10, 11. You want to catch up to, say, 3rd, 2nd, or 1st place. The second stat is acceleration. Ultimately, the stat increases the rate at which you speed up. It's also an important stat if you want to drift, as it relates heavily to another mini stat called mini turbo. Drifting speed that you get due to a higher acceleration or mini turbo stat is very good at speeding you up around corners. Having a high acceleration is very nice. While both acceleration and speed are very nice to have as a higher proportion, acceleration it will benefit you more in the end, but also you cannot have both a high speed and a high acceleration. High acceleration vehicle will likely have a very low maximum speed, and vice versa. As such, I recommend acceleration over speed when possible, but it is up to you. Next statistic is weight. This one is mostly important for comparison between two characters. Let's say a Bowser, a high weight character, that is in a high weight vehicle, bumps into a Toad, who is a low weight character, that is in a low weight bike. Toad will bounce further away from the Bowser. This is the whole idea of the weight stat. Those with a higher weight stat will cause those of a lower weight stat to bump away from them. Ultimately, you don't really need to worry about this stat. While bumping into other characters can be troublesome, it is more important to worry about big things in a race, namely getting first and not bumper cars. Fourth statistic is handling. This statistic is important for more reasons than one might think. Firstly, and most importantly, if a bike has a higher handling stat, then its turning radius will be smaller. This is very nice for certain maps that have very sharp turns. For example, Rainbow Road from the SNES. This is very nice and should be worried about, but not focused. If you want to maximize your ability to do something in Mario Kart, then worry about it. If you want to have fun with your family and you don't really care about winning or getting first place all the time, then it's not something you should worry about. Fifth and final statistic is traction. This one has more to do with the track that you are on than the vehicle you are using. Most tracks have the maximum traction factor, and on these tracks, your traction stat will not really mean a whole lot, but it will just mean that you will make tight turns, similar to the handling stat. However, if you are on some tracks, for example Sherbert, which is all ice, traction on that course will be lower. As such, a higher traction stat will let you have tighter turns compared to other bikes. This is very confusing, and I will not blame you if you completely ignore this stat, especially since I don't think very many people will care about this stat either. Now that you know the stats, let's go over some basics with bikes. Firstly, every bike has base stats, and will sometimes turn differently. If the bike has this symbol near it, this means that it has inward-facing drift. Now, this is different from most karts and some bikes that have outward-facing drift. To make this as non-confusing as possible, when you drift on a bike that has inward-facing drift, you will drift towards the area that you are drifting. This does not mean that you turn more sharply, but more that you can steer better, and a little bit different from the other kind, which is outward-facing drift. Doing outward-facing drift will not turn away per se from the point at which you are drifting, but you will just be repelled in a sense from the area that you're drifting. This makes it They're both very different, and they're both able to be played with, but it is something to experiment with. Once again, if you want to use inward-facing drift, you'll want to find a vehicle, most likely a bike, with this symbol. If not, you will want to use either of these two symbols. Now onto wheels. While the vehicles give you quote-unquote base stats, the wheels give you some very important additions to the base. If you want a higher acceleration, you will commonly want to use smaller wheels. If you want a higher speed but a lower acceleration, choose bigger wheels. You can also look at the stats as you are changing them to figure out specifically what it is that you want. You can do this by pressing the plus or minus button on your controller. Finally, there are kites, which provide many boosts to specific stats. If you want to maximize a certain stat, then pay attention to this. If you don't really care for maximizing and you just want to have fun with your family, choose whichever one is prettiest, coolest, wherever you want to be choosing your kite. This has been my miniature guide to bikes and karts in Mario Kart 8 Deluxe. Remember though, if you really want to play to your strengths, then use the best kart. If you want to have fun, then do what you want. It's a game that is meant to be played with others, a game to have fun in. So, have fun. Thank you for watching, and if you found this helpful, please like the videos, it helps me out a lot. In my next video, I will be going over the game rules of the versus game mode. Thank you so much. Have a great day.